Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 in relation to excretion and homeostasis. So part 1 we looked at the main questions which you can see here, and I told you in part 1 that the majority of these questions came up and we've answered them already. But we're going to continue on with a couple more years just so you can see them over and over again, because it's a big enough chapter to go over. So I think last time we finished up on 2015 or 16 I think it was, and we're starting with 2015, which was a short question. The skin hasn't come up in a while, so it's definitely due to come up perhaps in 2021, 2022. So you're given a diagram there, vertical section of the human skin. First off, you're asked to place an X on the adipose tissue, and you can see my X is here. You're then asked to label, or to name I should say, A and B. So A is your erector muscle here, and that's what causes the hairs to stand up. It contracts, causing the hairs to stand up. And B here is your sweat gland, and that's what causes sweat to be produced. Now you're asked to define each of the following words and explain how the process keeps the body warm. Well, piloerection, hair stands up, and when the hair stands up, it traps a layer of air close to the skin, which acts as an insulator. Please use the word insulator when describing the piloerection. And then vasoconstriction, almost identical questions now to 2016, is where the blood vessels narrow, which reduces the blood flow to the skin, which therefore obviously reduces heat loss. Moving on, 2013's got to do with homeostasis, and it's probably one of the more unique ones of its kind, in which you're given a graph here, and there's two temperatures on the X and the Y axis. On the Y axis you will have body temperature, and on the X axis you have the environmental temperature, which means the external temperature. And you can see we are given X, which remains relatively constant throughout the temperatures, the environmental temperatures, and we have Y here, which you can see that its body temperature increases dramatically as the environmental temperature increases. So one is of a dog and one is of a lizard. Straight away we should know that X is going to be the dog. Okay, mammals undergo homeostasis very much like we do, and they have a constant internal environment, meaning that they have a constant temperature. So the dog's temperature is increasing slightly due to the temperature increasing, but only slightly. Whereas a lizard, its temperature is going to increase much more dramatically, because it is an ectotherm. So which of the plots relates to the dog? X. Explain your answer. The dog's temperatures stay stable. Okay, remain stable, relatively stable anyhow. In relation to body temperature, what term is used to describe animals such as the dog? Okay, endothermic. So we have two types, endothermic and ectothermic. What's the main source of the dog's body heat? Well, there's a couple of sources here. You could have said metabolism. You could have said respiration, which we know that's a key there. And we could have also referred to fats and carbohydrates, because fats and carbohydrates provide energy for us, and we release that energy through the process of respiration and so forth. And then specifically fats and carbohydrates that do this. Okay, so do not be mentioning proteins or vitamins and minerals. Suggest a value to the dog's relationship between their body temperature and environmental temperature. Well, it's just purely for metabolism. We need the body to have a constant internal environment for our enzymes to work correctly. In relation to body temperature, what term is used to describe animals such as a lizard? An ectotherm or ectothermic, whatever. And what is the main source of the lizard's body heat? The environment. And I just gave an example there of the sun. So when the sun is out, that's when it gets its most heat. Okay, 2011. So we're not too bad now, we're nearly there. What is meant by the term excretion, and name one method of excretion in flowering plants? We've seen both of those already. Excretion is the removal of metabolic waste. And then you can say for the plant, in relation to the plants, one method of excretion. I just wrote down oxygen is excreted through the stomata. but you could have said the same for lenticels too. You are asked to draw a large table diagram of the human kidney and label the cortex, medulla and pelvis. So this is what we have here, the cortex, medulla and pelvis. I couldn't be bothered drawing it out there, guys. My drawings aren't the greatest. Thank God I'm not sitting at the Leaving Cert. But you can see here the cortex is on the outside, the medulla is on the inside, and then the pelvis is this section here. Now this is the ureter, but you weren't asked for that. And I presume the next question is going to ask you is, where does reabsorption take place? Well, it primarily takes place in the likes of the medulla there. Okay. So that's part 2. Part 3 is divided up into 2 sections. First off, name the blood vessel that supplies blood to the kidney, and from which blood vessel does the blood vessel referred to in part 1 arise from. Okay, so what supplies blood to the kidney? It is the renal artery. Okay, and the renal artery is connected to a major blood vessel, which is what should really be written here, the aorta. So the renal artery brings blood to the kidney, okay, and it arises from the aorta. Remember, the blood going into the kidney is unfiltered. In which cavity of the body are kidneys located? So this is your abdomen here, which is over here, IV, the abdomen. You do need to know the locations in the body for specific body organs. Name one substance other than water excreted in urine, urea. Give a feature of the kidney which indicates that it is an exocrine gland. So this is going into the endocrine chapter, which has got to do with hormones. So if it's an exocrine gland, it means there is a duct present. Okay, so exocrine because it has ducts. And if we look at our nephron, you can see here there's plenty of ducts going on here. Okay, the next part was the diagram up above here, which was given. You're asked to name the parts 1 to 6. And you can see I've just named it in the diagram here, rather than drawing it out again. And again, I only named parts 1 to 6. It didn't ask for the loop of Henle. It didn't ask to write in the capillaries or the collecting duct. Just do what the question is actually asking you. Now, indicate clearly where filtration takes place. So if we look at it up here, where does it take place? Well, it takes place in 1 and 2. Okay, technically it takes place in 2, the glomerus. Okay, but you can use 1 as well. It doesn't matter. Name the hormone associated with changed permeability of structure 7. So 7 is the collecting duct. So ADH, everybody, which we've seen before. Now, I really like part 2 and part 3. A sample of urine was found to contain protein. Would you consider this to be normal? The answer is no, because protein is too big to be filtered in the glomerus, which is up here in number 2. So protein is too big to be filtered. If there was protein in the blood, it does actually, not in the blood, but in urine, it actually indicates pregnancy, because the proteins are coming from the baby rather than the or developing fetus anyhow, rather than the potential mother. So part 3, a sample of urine was found to contain glucose. Would you consider this to be normal? No. The reason being is glucose should be reabsorbed, primarily in the PCT. The PCT here. So it should be reabsorbed. If glucose was found in urine, it is a common indicator that somebody is potentially diabetic. Just one thing to note here, and that's the arterioles. Never really talked about those just yet. So I said it already. The renal artery is supplying blood to the kidney. Now, the nephrons are so small that you have to get to the kidneys or to the nephrons themselves, they have to form arterioles. So I always consider it this way. The afferent arteriole is what's arriving, A for arrival, into the glomerus. So this is your unfiltered blood. And the efferent arteriole, E for excess, is leaving the glomerus. So that's carrying like red blood cells, which are too big to fit through the glomerus. proteins, and white blood cells, which are all, again, too big to be filtered into the glomerulus. So that's the efferent arteriole there, guys. Okay, that was that one. Let's move on. I think this is the last one now, thank God. So what is meant by excretion? The removal of metabolic waste. Okay, urea and carbon dioxide are excretionary products of the human body, and each case of the product, name a substance from which it is derived from. So where does it come from? So urea is derived from proteins, and CO2, that's carbon dioxide of course, is derived from carbohydrates. A lot of students didn't know that one, so just be careful with that one. So CO2 is derived from carbohydrates, and that's kind of going back to your to respiration if you've studied that chapter. But if not, you just learn it off. You're asked to label A to F there, guys, same as normal. From which blood vessel is A derived from? So A is the afferent arteriole, the renal artery, and it comes from the or that should be the renal artery there, guys. Not arteriole, A-R-T-E-R-Y. Okay. I get somebody to rewrite all of my all of these, and sometimes they don't write it in correctly because my writing is too untidy. Okay, where in the kidney is B located? So we're looking at it. B is over here, is the Bowman's capsule. Okay, it's located in the cortex. Give the part of the nephron in which the following takes place. So filtration, reabsorption of amino acids. Now filtration takes place in either the glomerulus, but some people say the Bowman's capsule too. So you can say either. And for it said amino acids, which obviously are derived from proteins, they come and be reabsorbed in the PCT. And I have a little asterisk next to that, and the asterisk indicates there that it is only the PCT that the reabsorption there takes place of amino acids. Give two features that of the nephron that aid filtration. Well, we're kind of going back to the adaptations again, and you can kind of link it in with the digestive system or the breathing system. There's loads there really. Where am I? Oh yeah, so you could say a large surface area. You could say it's one cell thick. You can mention ultrafiltration. You can say a rich blood supply. There's loads there you can say for that. Very similar to that of before. VI, name a group of biomolecules in the blood which are too large to fit through here. The filtration system of the nephron. The proteins would be the key one there. Okay, I wouldn't say carbohydrates because glucose is a carbohydrate and that can fit through. Yes, starches and stuff like that will not be able to fit through the glomerulus, but it's specifically saying name a group of biomolecules, and that would be proteins. Okay, C, and this has got to do with ADH. Suggest two situations which may result in a drop in water content in the blood. Well, you'll become dehydrated, so that means there's a low water intake. Or you might be having a lot of high salty foods. We said that before. When the water content of blood drops, a hormone is released. Name this hormone, ADH, and name the endocrine gland from which it is secreted from. So in this case here, it is secreted from the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, which I have here, guys. Part 3. Give a precise target area for this hormone. So we've discussed this before. That is the collecting duct or the DCT. And how does the hormone reach the target area? Like any other hormone, by the blood. Explain the role of this hormone on the target area. So what does it do? It simply makes the walls of the DCT, the collecting duct, you've mentioned them already, more permeable to reabsorb more water, which means less urine being produced. And that was it. So the questions are very repetitive, but they're quite nice overall. And when it does come up, it is definitely a question worth doing. So look, that's it now, guys. You can see the main questions here again, and I hope that helped.